What up, what up, what up? What's going on? Welcome to my video. This is gonna be a reaction video. A while back when I recorded the Blink Twice review, I said that I was gonna do this reaction video to Hugh Hefner and two feminists. So that was back in like March, and right now it's December. So it's been a minute since I watched it. But when I first watched it, I was like, man, this is like a real good review. Well, not good review, but a good debate between the two. And man, I think that it's important to, just take a deep dive into it. Like I said, I really don't even get into like the whole feminist movement and stuff like that, but things done took a turn. I see the importance of it. And I think that, like I said, it's something like when I start diving into it, man, like I learned a whole lot. And yeah, like I said, I still feel the same way. Like this review is I'm not review. Why I keep saying review? This debate on the talk show between the feminists and Hugh Hefner, like I think that is real important. And this was a while ago. But you'll have to excuse me if I look tired because it's real late right now. And I wanted to go ahead and knock this on out. But let's get on to it, man.
I would like to introduce now two ladies who I'm sure, well, I know everyone is aware by this time that there are a lot of women in this country who feel that they're being pushed around, and they have become very vocal. They call themselves the Women's Liberation Movement, and we have two representatives from that movement here tonight. They're both writers. Susan Brown Miller had a piece in the Sunday Times a couple of weeks back, and Sally Kempton is the other lady, and I would like you to meet those two ladies. Maybe we can find out what the women are all upset about. Will you welcome them, please? Are you?
Now the first thing I noticed was it was like they didn't want to give Hugh Hefner no handshake. I don't know if anybody caught that, but they definitely didn't want to give Hugh Hefner no handshake. See, they gave Dick one. They gave that man one. And Hugh Hefner was looking like, oh man.
Are you Sally?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you've brought cigarettes. Could I not light it for you?
No.
Okay. Just a little joke, you see.
Would you like to not light it for me?
Is it true that you travel in pairs for some reason, or is this just a
There is a political reason why we came tonight together.
political reason?
yes.
Oh, you want to leap right into that?
Sure. The women's liberation movement says sisterhood is powerful, and that means women together. And women's liberation is hot copy this season. And
Yeah, every
we
magazine has an article.
Right, every magazine has an article. All the shows kind of want to see a women's liberationist in the flesh. And our movement doesn't want to create stars or celebrities. So when we get an offer, we feel we should come, in a pair.
Oh, well, stars are created in pairs. I mean,
Right, but also we want to be crosstalk teams. I mean, we want to answer questions for each other and support each other generally.
okay.
Which is
What do you think men are doing wrong?
they're in charge. Yeah, and they oppress us as women. They won't let us be. And Hugh Hefner is my enemy.
Oh, is Hef your enemy? We really set you up tonight, didn't we?
We've been watching.
Even in the audience, I think. I get a certain.
Well,
I think we have more than a few.
I'm sure you must have some
the lib
friends
people
out
here in
there.
the
Well, if
audience.
that's true, then there are sisters. We didn't bring them. It's just that women's liberation is growing
You
every
didn't.
day.
You didn't stack the audience, if you'll pardon the expression. What? Now, you two are successful. You're Sally Kempton, are you?
Right.
You're successful writers. Have your careers been stood in the way of by your sex?
Well, Susan should really answer that question because mine hasn't for various reasons.
Oh.
So when she said that hers hasn't, like off top, I looked at it like, you had the one lady with the short hair, normally kind of like probably, masculine, more masculine, even though you had this woman with the long hair, she's smoking and stuff, but, off top, I felt like, she was probably saying it because she got the long hair and maybe a little bit more prettier, and men probably, throw themselves at her or whatever. But come to find out, when I did research, I guess her dad, he was like a big popular guy, journalist. So I guess she was saying that she got privilege, when it comes to being a journalist because of her father.
Except psychologically, which is another issue.
It's good you came in Tuesday, then, if yours has.
Right. I never wrote anything till I was 28 years old. And I never dared to allow myself to believe that I had ambition and that I should be a writer. I worked at Esquire magazine for 2 years as a researcher. I worked at Newsweek magazine for 2 years as a researcher, and I'd go in periodically to my bosses and say, I'd like to do more, I'd like to write. And they'd say, oh, you got your hair set today, isn't that lovely? Things like that. And they never took my ambition seriously. When I was 28, I read Betty Friedan's book, The Feminine Mystique, and I saw myself on every page, and I knew what she was talking about. And I knew that I really wanted to do something, and for me it was writing, so I started to do it. And, I've had some small success at it. That's all. Well, we're really not successful. I mean, we're just doing something that ordinary guys do all the time. There's nothing exceptional about being a freelance writer or a reporter.
Yeah.
All kinds of mediocre people do that. It's just because we're women, somehow, it seems very special.
Well, what is it you want done, if you could wave a magic wand now, that would release you from the yoke of this oppression that you all talk about? What would do it quickly? Is it a whole change of attitude in the Western world?
It's a change in education, really. Women are brought up in really hundreds of ways. I mean, from the time they're 2 and 3 years old, to be cute and coquettish and intellectually unserious, to seduce people instead of saying what they want. I think it would be, what we would really like is for there to be no necessity for seduction in the world at all. And particularly for there to be no necessity for women to seduce men to get what they want.
Well, now, there's some of you, and I find it hard to not...
So far, I understand where they're coming from, especially, probably from back then. Her saying that, men probably, blow her off because she's a female. A lot of time it's like that, whenever you have someone that you feel like that don't normally show that type of role. If a lot of women are not playing that journalist role or, lead role, then of course, like, a lot of times that's how it is. They'll just pretty much throw it off. And it's no different than like when it comes to the whole black movement, African American movement. African Americans wasn't looked at as serious, for a while, and they had to fight their way. So I kind of like understand where they coming from, and like I said, it makes a lot of sense, when it comes to like the whole African American movement and the woman liberation, how they are kind of like tied with each other. And also what Sally was talking about women just having that role of seducing and stuff, having the hooker role or the just, like cheerleaders and, the common role that you see women be in. She was saying that, she'd rather it not always being that way. And I think, I understand, because every woman is not the same. So you may have women that don't want to do that. You have women like, because I grew up around women who, you know, my grandma, she was out there in the garden and stuff like that, was very hands on. Like, but I mean, she was kind of like balanced. She had her girly side, but for the most part, she was very like a dominant, woman. So, every woman don't have that role where it's just, just prancy and seductive and stuff like that. So I kind of like understand where she's coming from as far as not wanting to be seen in that light all the time.
Say some of you, because there are different voices speaking for the women's liberation movement, who reject men altogether. They won't sit in the same room with a man if they can avoid it. Are you two of those ladies? And if so, what are we doing here?
I think we're probably more optimistic about the ability of men to change. We think there's going to be a struggle, and we don't think that men are going to give up their power and privilege easily, because they benefit from oppressing women. They really do. Hefner has built an empire based on oppressing women. The day...
One lady that we spoke to, who's a member of your movement, would not come on tonight with you, Mr. Hefner, because she said it would be like putting Stokely Carmichael on with George Wallace. I don't know which of you is flattered by that, but
Feels like Wallace, eh?
I don't know which of you is which, but have you had this reaction before tonight?
Yes, I think Playboy's been singled out along with, the Miss America contest and some other things as, as the extreme example of what the new feminists feel is the wrong image for women. But, having been described as an oppressor, can I respond just a little bit?
All right.
I'm more in sympathy than perhaps, the girls realize with...
Women.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm 35.
Than the ladies realize. I use girls referring to women of all ages.
You should stop. You want to be called a boy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They made a great point. I ain't gonna lie. It'll slip past you if you're not really paying attention. Because even like with myself, I probably wouldn't even pay attention, but because they very hands-on with this whole situation, it's like they knew it off the bat. When he said girls, like when he say that, it is his way of viewing things, because it's a mindset, and by him placing them like as girls, it's kind of saying like, I'm over you, you just girls. And you remember, I don't know if I talked about it when it came to Christy Hefner, but she was talking about how he used to pat the girls in the head, and even they used to talk about, he used to call the girls, the Playgirls, the Playboy bunnies, he used to always call them girls, So it's like they own to something when they telling him, and then she said, well, what if I called you a boy? It's like, yeah, it kind of like makes sense. So I understand where they're coming from. They made a great point that I probably wouldn't even caught on to it.
Never. I always felt it was complimentary, but
Never thought you'd have your mouth washed out for saying girls.
no, that's right. I'd never thought of girl as being, but I think there's validity to it. I think there's validity. I'd never thought of it as being, condescending.
And I think Hugh Hefner is I think he honest about that part, as far as he ain't never thought about it in that way, and like they might be making a point. So like I do feel like, Hugh Hefner is an open person. Like he just wasn't no like closed off, what they call it, like chauvinistic guy that just, was just hard and just rough and tough. And, I believe that he was more open, that, what they saying to him is kind of like opening his eyes a little bit,
That's because your magazine
All right,
has
but
an
wait,
image
let-
of women at an arrested development.
Well, let me respond. Let me respond for just a moment, and then we'll.
May I
Really
just say
kick it
that the
back and
ladies in your
forth.
magazine have the opposite of arrested development?
Now here, now.
So she said your magazine got the woman in arrested development. Let's see. So what is the definition for arrested development? Arrested development describes a state where an individual's emotional, social, psychological growth stops prematurely, often due to trauma, neglect, addiction, leaving them stuck at an early development stage despite physical maturity, leading to immature behaviors like poor emotional regulation, impulsivity, or difficult forming healthy relationship. While once a medical term for physical stunting, it now primarily refers to this psychosocial immaturity where coping mechanisms learned in childhood persist in adulthood. I don't know. Oh no, shit. Is that the best way to say it? I mean, you can in a way. When it comes to the magazines and the Playboy, Playgirl, what is it? Playboy Bunny, Playgirls, or whatever, Play Bunny. I don't know how they say it, but he did have them like young and immature in a way. So I don't know. I don't know if we can say that or not.
First of all,
Sorry.
the girls in the magazine are admittedly young. The average age of our male reader is 26, so there's a certain logic to that. But in terms of my attitude on the feminist movement as it exists now, I think that women over generations and centuries have indeed been oppressed. I think there's no question about it.
Yeah.
It's only a relatively short time that they've had the vote. And, a short time before that, they were allowed to own property. I think there are still many areas in society in which they do not have equal job opportunity. One of the thrusts of the feminist movement is for better abortion laws. I think Playboy has done as much as any mass media in terms of trying to accomplish exactly that. But I take issue and separate in this one rather fundamental area. There is usually a parallel made between female emancipation and racial equality. And I don't think it's the same thing, even though the feminist movement grew out of the civil rights, the current feminist movement grew out of the civil rights business. For this reason, I don't think that the color of a man's skin is any more important than whether he is blonde or brunette, blue-eyed or brown-eyed. I think whether you are male or female is the beginning of who you are as a human being. I think it's important, and I think that it is important emotionally as well as physically. I think there are differences, and I think there should continue to be differences. I think what we want to try to do is find roles in society that are not as limiting as they've been in the past. And they have been far more limiting for women than men, admittedly, but very limiting for both in the past. I hope we're going to evolve into a society in which the broadest spectrum of opportunities exist for both men and women. But I think that to begin with, we are, I like very much Mary Calderon's comment in a recent Playboy interview in which she said, she's less interested in women's rights than human rights. I think that it's...
Would you like to respond,
I
Susan?
certainly would. The role that you have selected for women is degrading to women because you choose to see women as sex objects, not as full human beings.
Well, obviously
Hold on now.
degrading-
The day that you... I want to say, I haven't finished. The day that you are willing to come out here with a cottontail attached to your rear end.
Oh man, they got that boy lying up there. That cigar. I mean that pipe, boy. They got him lying up that pipe.
He has made the degradation of women a condition of employment in the Playboy clubs around the country. They have to get into these ridiculous costumes which deny their humanity and their femininity. You make them look like animals. Yes, women aren't bunnies. They're not rabbits. They're human beings.
All right. The Playboy symbol, the rabbit, of course, and the reason for having bunnies in the clubs, the symbol was originally a male figure, and it was picked quite innocently and simply some 16 years ago because we felt it was a rather playful and sexual symbol. The fact that the girls are dressed in costumes is no more complex than that, and the girls obviously don't find it degrading, or we wouldn't have as many working with us. In addition,
that's not true.
just 1 minute. In addition, I know that there are a great many women who feel as you do, but there are also 1 out of every 4 readers of the magazine today is female, so there are obviously a lot of other women too. In terms of degrading and wearing a bunny tail, the parallel that's usually made is, why don't you create a women's magazine with nude men? Because there's some kind of a notion that, taking the clothes off is a degrading concept.
Hey, Helen Gurley Brown wants to put a man
Yes, I know
in
she does, and I think she may
Cosmopolitan.
do
What do
it.
you think of that and her?
Well, that's another symptom of the same decadent problem, right?
Is
I
she
mean,
just a
yeah.
female half?
Well, I don't know. I'm sort of.
No,
She's not. I mean, Helen Gurley Brown at least was the first person who ever said that it was okay for a woman to be single up into her 40s and 50s. One has to give her that. But she runs a magazine for women who want to know how to get men, just as Mr. Hefner runs a magazine for men who want to seduce women. And we didn't think that's a proper, that's a sole relationship between men and women, or even certainly not the most important one. And maybe that's the reason that all these things about male incidents and stuff like that you and Dr. May were talking about earlier has been going on.
I wonder if we can
It's a
get...
hassle.
Yeah.
In other words, if you have a relationship with somebody, why do you have to form a big thing? I mean, some guys you have crummy relationships with, some you don't. I mean, some of them are great, some of them aren't. Some of them look at you as a sex object, fine. So the ones that like to talk to you.
But those aren't the ones.
No, I mean the ones who like to both go to bed with you and talk to you. You do both of those things. The ones who like to make music and talk to you and go to bed with you and write or whatever you do, draw. You do all those things. I mean, I don't see where the problem is. It's just maybe because I don't see what you're talking about yet. But I don't see the problem yet.
I think we need another show on the subject. We have to pause. We'll be back in a moment.
Dr. May, you've been very quiet and patient.
Yes, well, I've been thinking and listening. I very much agree with most of what you've been saying. And I do think that Playboy has treated women as an accessory, like the tie or the shirt or whatever one wears. Now, that's what I was trying to say a little while ago. Now, and it's not just that this is happening in the modern period, Mr. Hefner. In the Middle Ages, women were terrifically powerful. Anne of Aquitaine and these queens led armies, and 70, one conquered another land and married again. This was a period of women's power. Now, agreeing with most of what you say, let me put in one qualification. That I think the difference between men and women ought to be capitalized on and not swept under the rug. For example, we are men and you are women, and the best identity. When I work with a patient, she's a woman, I have to get her over all these subdued, docile feelings. I mean, it doesn't make a human being. but also
You're
I
a
have.
rare psychiatrist.
What'd you say?
I said you are a rare psychiatrist.
Well,
Yes.
I hope so. But
You know, there are very many strict Freudians who tell their women patients that they're not accepting their female role. They can only find salvation
I don't
through
think I've
housework
used
and
that
motherhood.
in
Right.
40 years.
Great.
But that's been longer than I've been practicing. But look, let me put in one point. It's the old French idea, vive la différence. I think what you ought to do is not try to be the same as men. After all, I don't think most of us have done a very good job with our lives. But you ought to try to affirm your, well, what you are as women. And I think the mistake of the women's liberation movement is where they want to be just the same as men, which I'm sure you don't, but they throw out the baby with the bathwater, which is the.
Imagine being able to build anything. Just
So real quick, what he's saying, like, I agree also. Like, that would be my same issue when it comes to like woman liberation, is that, you know, the whole idea of trying to be like a man, like, it shouldn't be that way. It should be you know, woman empowerment, meaning like elevate women, not I can do what you can do, you know. And I think that's where they mess up at a lot of times. Not all of them, but I've seen a lot that do like fight about, they arguments are, well, we can do what you do. Even though I haven't heard them say anything about that, but you do hear it a lot. You know, we can do what y'all do, and it shouldn't be that way. You know, we are men. These are women. Women are different than man, and you know, it should be some type of separation where it's like, all right, women have their thing, men have their thing. You know, we have different. We're framed different, physically and mentally. So there are certain things that man will be superior in versus women, and then you have an argument where a man who, like, at his low estate, a woman can dominate him at that, and then they be like, well, see, a woman can do the same thing, or a woman can, you know, do better than a guy. And it's like, all right, well, this guy is at his lowest, you know, but, you know, what about a guy at his, you know, prime or at the top? Are you going to be able to, you know, lift better than him? Or, you know, when it comes to, like, they always talk about the sports, it's like, we know that physically men can be very strong. Majority of men can be will be stronger than women. So if we play sports, will women be able to compete as long as man can compete? You know, or is there going to be issues in the future? All right. But yeah, I where he was going with it, like, I totally agree before this dang commercial popped up.
by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
The differences that are in the personality of each, and the, well, I still believe in vive la différence. Not at all because la différence makes anybody superior to anybody else, but because life is tremendously more interesting if there are two sexes in it.
Is either of you ladies married?
Yes,
Here,
I-
here.
You are. Now, some of you are really against marriage completely.
Yes. Yeah, I think most of us feel that the marriage laws are very discriminatory against women.
Except in California with alimony, apparently.
Well,
Would you
well,
accept alimony if you were divorced?
No.
You wouldn't.
But I would think that a woman who spent her whole life being a housewife and mother should. I think that in such cases, alimony is really the price that men pay for women's oppression.
How do you explain the Margaret Chase Smiths and the Helen Gurley Browns and the Bess Meyersons and who have somehow fought through the
yes,
system
well,
and gotten
society always allows a few to get through. You know, there are always loopholes.
But you speak as if there were a conspiracy. They say, let's
Oh,
let
yeah,
these few through,
well,
and then
yes,
these
I
other
think
women will
there
get
is a
back in their
conspiracy.
place.
So, and then also he brought up, Hugh Hefner had brought up about the how the African American and the feminists tie in together. But I was just about to point out what they just said is like, what people say, in the African American society, or as far as folks getting in, because they always throw that, well, what about so and so? He made it, and that person made it, and then they be like, well, they always let someone through, which is I can see that, I can see it on both ends. Like, I do believe that there is a gate, some type of gatekeeping where, certain people are allowed to be a part of the I guess higher ups, or be a part of the society of, the high society, or the rich society, however you want to say it, the popular. It is gatekeepers when it comes to that, where folks are allowing certain people to come up. If you are a part of, or, like they always talking about, you got to sell your soul and all that type of stuff. Like, I do believe that in some cases it is that, but I do believe that some people just break through. They don't have to sell their soul to make it, but at the end of the day, you can't focus on, what they got going on, or what the whole world consider, popular. It's just like they talk about, the perfect example I put it is like when it comes to like music. A lot of people always talk about, oh, you got to sign to a major label and this and that, got to do that. And then you have now people got going independent, and they do their own thing, and they make it. It was a struggle, but they still make it. So it's like, I think both exist, but you can't be hard focused on the whole, like, well, they ain't gonna let us in, because I think that's what, a lot of times the movement, the female liberation movement, they focus on that negative part versus trying to, focus on the ones that actually found a path where they can make it, where you can make it, and just go that path. Because when you try to focus on all of it, of course you're gonna see the bad, but there's also good, and you'll miss out on the good because you're focusing on all the bad and stuff like that.
I really do.
But not a conscious one. You don't think that I go around consciously oppressing women,
I don't know if you do. I don't think so, watching your show. I really wouldn't think. You seem to like intelligent women, and you never seem to be afraid to have strong women on your show. I mean, you've had marvelous intellectual discussions with Beverly Sills, Shirley
Yeah,
Chisholm.
but that's because I'm
right?
weak and like to be dominated.
You're confident of your masculinity. Right?
Say that
Let's say
again.
that louder, right? You're
Say-
confident of your masculinity.
I wanted to get that
Yeah.
out so that I'll hear it. Gee, we need another show on this. I'm afraid we have opened so many cans of worms here. That would
Also, on that part, she said that he wasn't afraid to have strong women on his platform, meaning, like, they're saying, like, when it comes to Hugh Hefner, he choose to highlight women that not really at a strong mindset, but at a, like what she was saying, a arrested development, because they're playful and showing they skin and stuff. So it kind of like, I understand where she coming from, and she's not like to the point where she just overly just hate men and stuff like that. Like, I kind of like get what she's saying. Is like, and when you think about it, when it comes to Hugh Hefner and the woman he choose, because he was trying to say, well, the reason why he choose the woman he choose is because a lot of his readers are 26. But it's like, but Hugh Hefner purposely was choosing younger women to marry and be with. And it's like, all right, so why were you choosing them? And, you know, would it work out? Would he be able to be with a woman like an older woman, someone that was a little bit more mature, or, they kind of like making a point, they kind of like making a point where it's like, I see where they coming from, I see where they coming from. And at the end of the day, man, like I said, it's something to look at on both sides. I think that's the end of that video, if I'm not mistaken. But I just closed up right here, man. Like, I think it's something to look at on both ends. Like, the feminists, they have to, really look at, not going too far, feminists to where you hate men and you think all men, this and that, and you just have this no hope. But, it can be balanced in the sense of, yeah, stand your ground, speak what what you feel, but also have that balance of, I'm a woman, I'm not trying to be a man, but I just don't want to be belittled as if, I'm not capable of, having my own mind or whatever, which there's a lot of women who are able to do that, But like I said, some of this stuff, it just goes far out, and it kind of mess things up for women. So just got to be careful with that. But I got a lot of respect for these women. Like I said, I looked up Sally Kempton, and I seen her journey, which is kind of like, she was kind of like going off on the deep end. If you want to go check her out. And I'm not sure about this other lady, Brown. I didn't ever really look her up. But, and that Halle Gurley person they was talking about, she's a unique character too. She kind of like got that balance in it. Like they said, that she was kind of like a female Hugh Hefner in her days. I don't know if she's still alive or not. Sally Kempton passed away, rest in peace, I think 2 years ago. But yeah, man, like I said, man, this whole feminist thing is very important. Like, women liberation, I think, is very important. And it's part of history, it's part of life that we gotta always come, and something that got to be addressed. Like, that's what I'm learning. Like, it goes all the way back, even to the Bible. So, I guess this is going to be something that I'll be talking about a little bit more. I got some other videos that, like I said, it kind of opened up my eyes. And then when I saw this other video, I was like, wow, I ain't even think about that in this. But we'll get into it, All right. But that'll be it, man. Hope you enjoyed. Leave your comments, whatever you got to, share or talk about, man. I'm up to hearing it. All right. Love you. And that'll be it.